Okay, now we're live in 3, 2, 1. I don't know, 0. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Pesich, co-producer for Beautiful Black Books, presented by Poetry Center San Jose, with host Santa Clara County Poet Laureate Emeritus Tshaka Campbell, and featuring poet, scholar, queer activist, and performance artist Ramona Webb. Beautiful Black Books is a recurring program featuring Black writers in conversation, followed by a Q&A. It is a vessel of exchange. We bring Black writers to our communities and our communities to these writers to learn about their sources of inspiration. We begin today's program with the following land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Poetry Center San Jose and the city of San Jose exists on the unceded land of the Womxn Ohlone. We recognize that the Womxn Ohlone people are alive and flourishing members of the community today, and recognize their right to this land, which they have stewarded throughout generations. We acknowledge that members of the San Jose community and residents of California and the U.S. continue to benefit from the use of indigenous land, and we acknowledge that this land has come under the control of various entities through violence and dishonesty. Recognizing the history and legacy of colonialism that continue to negatively impact indigenous peoples, their traditional territories, practices, lifeways, and well-being to this day. We'll put a link to the Bay Area-based Sogorea-Te Land Trust led by urban indigenous women in the chat in a moment. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, and now to introduce our host for Beautiful Black Books, who will introduce our guest. Santa Clara County Poet Laureate Emeritus Tshaka Campbell has authored 4 books of poetry. His 5th, Blood at the Root, is forthcoming from El Martillo Press. He is an internationally recognized artist and performer, originally from London, England. Tshaka was raised on his father's teachings of solidarity and brought up on orators the likes of Garvey's Pan-Africanism to William Churchill. As such, he adopted his father's intense love of language. Tshaka began writing poetry long before performing it in an attempt to find his own voice and point of view within the art form. He has won Grand Slam championships in a number of cities across the U.S. He currently resides in San Jose and continues to ask the world to listen different. Please give it up to Tshaka Campbell and Ramona Webb. All right, folks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Every time I listen to that intro, I feel super old. But needless to say, as Rob mentioned to everything, as mentioned earlier, this is really a program about getting these beautiful artists in front of our community, and then our communities associated with these artists. There's so much good work being done in around the country, around the world, but also sometimes right around the corner down by the bodega. There's a lot happening, so it's an opportunity to get these folks out in front of people. But the person we're talking to today, the individual, the galaxy universe of a person that we are talking about today, Ramona, I'm so happy to be here. But let me give you guys some of her details. Ramona Brook Webb is an Afro-Creek Muscogee queer poet and performing artist. Please correct me later on, because I'm sure I butchered that. Whose intersectional work bridges art, healthcare, and equity. They are the first poet in residence at the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, in the National Center of Excellence in Women's Health, in the Black Wellness Health and Livelihood Initiative, as well as the Black Wellness Center, where she collaborates to address racial health disparities, fosters cultural change, and integrates art into healthcare practices. In their dual role of as Director of Wellness and Art Gallery Curator for the UCSF, there's so much, it's just like, it's such a mouthful. Black Wellness Center, Ramona brings creativity, healing, and community engagement to the forefront of health and wellness. Additionally, through the University of California's Humanities Research Institute, they are a member of the Black Feminist Healing Arts Lab. Beyond UCSF, Mona serves as the first Janice Mirikitani, we'll come back to that, so you can help me out with that, poet theologian in residence at Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco, where she was recently named New Arts and Liturgies. God, I am really butchering everything today. Coordinator. Mona is a conservatory-trained theater artist who specializes in docu-ritual-drama, a compelling fusion of documentary storytelling, poetry, and ritual in performance. Their work is rooted in identities and their mission to promote healing, equity, cultural transformation. That's what's on paper. When you're in the presence of this person, you feel there's this thing called a merkaba that surrounds the soul. They say that everyone has their individual merkaba, and then sort of around the world there's a merkaba keeping it protected. You walk into a room and you feel protected when you are in this space. I am so happy. I am so humbled to have you here on the show. And you're one of the main reasons that I wanted to put some of this kind of a show together, is to get folks that I've experienced and then sort of then moved away, and there was a gap. And so now I got this chance to sort of bridge all of that together again. It's amazing. I'll stop talking. How are you? Please tell us where you're hailing from, where you're talking to us from today.
I'm so grateful to be present with you. This is such an incredible gift. I'm so excited. Thank you for creating this platform and this space, and thank you for including me in it. Right now, I'm hailing from San Francisco. I'm actually here at UCSF. We are running an incredible retreat for our patient family and our Black Women's Patient Family and Advisory Committee today. And so today is all about healing and wellness. And so I'm grateful to be here in my office and getting an opportunity to offer up some of the poems that makes this space so special.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I'm just going to jump right in. And as I mentioned to you before, we're kind of the way the show works. We're all over the place. The questions are going to come from on purpose, but not on purpose all at the same time. But
Sounds great.
I want to start with, we met in San Francisco so long ago. And at the time in the Bay, there was Slam, there was Youth Speaks, there were open mics were plentiful around the Bay. And sort of it's had its ebbs and flows. But I feel like there was so much happening in arts and poetry in the Bay. And I'd love to hear how you're finding it now. What does the Bay feel like? What does your area feel like now from an artistic perspective here, 10, 15 years later?
Our artistic experience now, I feel like the landscape of the poetry community continues to grow, shift, and change, in generous ways. It's been beautiful to watch incoming organizers and poets taking the helm of a lot of the venues and the organizing that has historically been done by a certain generation of poets here in the Bay Area, across the state as a whole. And so now it looks different. It feels different, especially post-pandemic. That had a deep impact, I feel like, on the landscape of the poetry community and how we reach each other, how we talk to each other. There are a lot more virtual readings now than there were before. But there are a lot of I feel as though we've always been a community that worked collectively to achieve goals and to advance each other artistically, as well as our own visibility as a community. What I am seeing now is the the collaboration has become even closer.
Oh,
The intersectionality has become even more pronounced in terms of who's running Berkeley, who's running Oakland. Oh, it's all the same. You know, like, and I love that. I really, really do. Because that's that cooperative work in economics, you know. It's definitely giving Kuja Chakalia energy.
yes, yes.
And it's been a beautiful joy to watch and be included in, which I also really appreciate, is the generosity of the organizers that are lifting and holding the community, have been very thoughtful about being inclusive of those of us who have created, who have given, who have performed, who have created foundation and continue to be present and thrive, and are more than readily available to help out when we can. And so I really appreciate that. It seems as though the community continues to grow closer and closer and closer. And that encourages me. I feel really excited about that. And it gives me more and more opportunities to create spaces where we can gather.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's been happening at Glide, and that's what's been happening at UCSF on my end of things. But yeah, the landscape as a whole is just continuing to mature and grow and love. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
I'd love to hear that, because one of the concerns I've always had, I mean, I've been in spaces, you know, whether it be in Europe or here on the East Coast, you know, is that you're in the space for a while, and then you have folks that are in that community, and then they find a level of success, and then
Mhm.
they leave the community, and nothing's wrong with that. But then it kind of leaves a gap. And if when they were here, they weren't creating that ladder,
Mhm.
and there's a gap, and it's like folks now have to climb and try to fill that space. But to hear that, you know, you feel as though it's just a new space has sort of been created, and its community is is refreshing to hear, because I'm always worried, like, okay, so, you know, what's happening to this legacy of this craft that we love so much, you know. It's good to hear. There's something that I started doing recently with the show, and, you know, I'm in Silicon Valley, right? So I'm like, okay, so how am I going to incorporate this chat stuff, this AI stuff into the show? And so what I started doing was going in and having Chat GPT tell me who the person is, right? So what Chat GPT came back about you is to say, uh, Ramona's poetry is known for its emotional intensity, rhythmic storytelling, and its focus on themes like intersectional identity, queer and Black lived experience, liberation, protest and healing, community, and collective memory. Now, two questions for you. Did they get it right? And what would you and or add or take away from that?
I mean, that's scary again.
Right?
I'm right on that.
Right?
Like, maybe I've had too many conversations with ChatGPT. Stop uploading so much. Well, yeah, that feels fairly accurate about who I am and where I am in my work. Um, I th- uh, I think the ministry component is maybe the only thing that
Yeah.
was left untouched, but that's the newest addition to the bouquet, or the diaspora of artistry that I have been um, finding foundation in, developing, engaging, and opening the way to.
Right.
Um, the work at Glide is quite extraordinary and very experimental.
Mm,
Uh,
I love that.
um, it's been an absolute joy to be there and work with Minister Marvin K. White, who is also a brilliant poet.
Mm,
And so you have a ministry and liturgy that is being led by poets and poetry.
yeah.
We have a writers' church service. I give sermons on fourth Sundays for writers' church. We offer writers prompts in every service. I've been bringing in community poets. We've featured Nazila Jameson this season. We've featured Joyce Lee this season. We've featured Kimberly Johnson this season. We featured Deidre White this season. And last season, I got to feature Jason Bayani, Amy Suzara, and Dazier Grego. And so it's been exciting to open up this world. And I think that's the only thing that ChatGPT didn't catch
yet,
me,
right?
is
Right.
the mystery.
Until right now.
Okay.
They're listening.
Truth is.
You know, right? But yeah, I was going to get to that later, but I want to jump into that because to me that is such a, God, it's just a amazing piece, and I love to see like the places that poetry finds itself and sort of grows into. So talk to us a little bit about how this started. Like, how did you get there? And I think like what I'd love to do sort of at the sort of the thread here, you know, is we sometimes have younger poets, people in their early stages of their poetry, and it's sort of like, oh, I write poems, then what, right? So I love when there's a journey. So I'd love to understand sort of how did you start, what was that, and then how did that get you to this place here? I know that was a big question, but
I was just thinking like, where do we begin? So I came up as a performance poet, and in the poetry slam community, I started I was on the first Lexington, Kentucky team in high school. So I started in I started in the late 90s. Kidding. I started in 1998. So by the time I got to return to Louisiana, which was the next stop that I made on my poetry slam journey, and where I consider my home in my heart and home in my art. It's always a toss up between the Bay Area and Louisiana because they both hold so much station with me. But moving through community training, because performance poetry and slam at that time, there was no per se school of that, or what you had were community poets, and you had organizers, and you had an artist who was 2 hairs ahead of you, who was showing you those 2 hairs as they go. It's a very a community oriented experience and learning practice. And I took that along my way. I did I started out I was a creative writing major in high school. When I went to college, I went to Southern University first, and then I moved to San Francisco Bay Area, and went to New College of California, where I got my degree, and was in conservatory in the Experimental Performance Institute, which was huge. Having that time, that training, that mentorship really offered me a foundation to stand on when trying to create a career based on full-time working artistry based in poetry in the Bay Area. And, San Francisco is probably as deep a waters as you can get into as it concerns the literary arts. And at that time, it was very sink or swim. I ran this Baton Rouge Poetry Alliance with Chancellor Zero Skidmore. We co-founded that organization 25 years ago now.
Wow.
We ran it together for 7, and it continues to thrive in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, even now. I was a slam master and one of the co-coaches of Team San Francisco for 10 years. I cooked for every show once a month for 10 years. Now, when I look back on it, I'm like, how did you navigate that?
Food and community. You gotta love it.
Well, that's what I know. I came out of Louisiana, and that's how we gathered. I always gathered people around food around my table. And so that's what I brought with me when I moved to the Bay Area and offered to San Francisco. It was free Creole food was my hook. $5. You can have a show and a meal. I was a really great date for years. And so, you know, that really steeped me in community. And even in terms of the venues that we were choosing, making connections with the theater movement. When I decided to move the show out of the bar and into theaters and galleries, just to create a different experience for artists and patrons who were coming in, just a different kind of exposure. And also, you know, the consideration of different spaces that can hold our voices. And feel like appropriate spaces to showcase us and are happy to have us. And so I learned a great deal around, you know, community engagement. You know, the Bay Area poetry community was very instrumental in being very thoughtful about helping me land here. And I feel like those foundational relationships that we build as artists by showing up, by doing the work, but also by, you know, being a presence and being supportive is a big part of what ended up sustaining me, you know, artistically. I do have a great deal of training. However, what I have more of is community. What I have more of is time at nationals and time in practice and time, you know, in bars and universities and corners and wherever you can find us to, you know, uplift the message of the moment. Full-time working artistry has looked different for me according to each step I've taken. Um, I feel like San Francisco Unified School District was definitely one of my first big steps in working with youth. I was working with Breon Baines with Lyrical Minded and Project Able, art-based learning for equity, where I was taking teaching artists into group homes, lockdown mental health facilities, orphanages, and county court schools. And that rang with a lot of amazing poets that we know, Tongo Eisenmartin, Sonia Renee Taylor, you know, there were a lot of Nazil Jameson there, Kim Johnson, like there were a lot of incredible artists that we brought into those spaces that made incredible and liberating differences. And so once I realized that was empowering, that I thought, well, what is the next step? What I continued to wonder was, how do I get the money and how do I get the access to the artists who are going to make the impact that is necessary in the spaces that I am trying to engage?
Right.
And so once I figured out, like, okay, if I don't want to just come in for a moment and go, what does it mean for me to be the money? How do I become the money? How do I become who makes this happen and move forward? And I feel like that was a big part of my exploration at San Francisco Unified School District with Lyrical Minded and Project Able, was figuring out how we navigate the financial upliftment of our community, ensure that we are offering livable wages and continuing to push the artistry and the landscape of poetry and what is expected or experienced by the Bay Area and Bay Area young people, very specifically and very particularly youth of color, you know, because there are a lot of those, a lot of our children in those facilities. What does it mean for us to bring that forward? What does it mean for us to anchor into that? And so I worked on that and fundraised, through the district, which is thousands of dollars every year. I had to restock our budget every year. I was my own administrative everything. And while it was incredibly impactful work and which I'm grateful for, those kinds of things have burnout written on them. Yes. Especially when we got to a place where we were, maybe 7 or 8 different facilities we were in San Francisco all simultaneously. Wow. Which was great for artistry because we got to bring more and more folks, but trying to navigate and make sure that everything and everyone was taken care of became a bit heavy. So then I figured, okay, now I need to learn, what does it mean administratively to manage the artistry that's coming in and what we want to share. And also, what does it mean to have the self-care capacity to continue that work? The burnout and the overwhelm is what ultimately took me to the next step. And so it sent me back to grad school. Once I studied here at CIS, California Institute of Integral Studies, and I also Chichester University and Chichester, England. took a good look at what the landscape had to offer me and what I could bring back to my local community. And it took me to the next step, which was the Queer Cultural Center of San Francisco, which I held several positions at QCC over my time there. I started out as a volunteer in college, hanging out programs, and by the time I left, I was associate artistic director of the National Queer Arts Festival. Which is ginormous here.
Yes.
And it gave me what I asked for. How do we learn to manage this? How do we learn to be funders? What does it mean to be a funder? To offer the money, as well as the artistry. And it also, all of those incredible relationships that I'd made with theaters and galleries and all of those art spaces became important, because then I could help move some of this artistry into different spaces, especially across the bridge to Oakland, which is also a deep intention that I always hold.
Yeah.
And so, and it was another great I mean, gosh, I can't even think of all the years that I was associated with the Queer Cultural Center, because it started in college and ended with me well into adulthood. But I learned a great deal from Pamela Peniston, their founding artistic director. She's an incredible mentor and friend, and she taught me a great deal about this industry. I feel like that is what prepared me, to take the next step here to UCSF. And I started here at UCSF. I was hosting, they had a Young Women in Leadership conference that I used to facilitate workshops for and write for and produce for and host and perform for and run open mics and all of the things. And then a position opened up that allowed me to do that kind of work with adults and caretakers. And so healing healers. And I started to use my art as a point of integration. And that is, I feel like once I stepped into this platform or this arena here at UCSF, which is an incredible academic institution and a learning space, but it's also a hospital. So it's also a healing space. It gave me a different landscape and vantage point to see what is possible when we use art as a point of healing. What does it mean to heal through poetry? What does it mean to heal through theater? What does it mean to heal, while looking at an art exhibition? How can that be impactful? How can that change your life? How can that keep you here? In the same ways that it is, and I realize in the same ways that it has affected me, in the same ways that it has helped me to navigate the world around me, sharing those experiences, providing experiences that provide healing for the communities that we serve, but also provide healing for the doctors, the nurses, the intake folks, the people who, sweep floors and wash tables, who wheel you down the hall, the folks who are taking blood pressure and delivering babies. They have their own emotional space and their own human experience that they're having as well. And so moving the focal point to not only community, but to the folks who are taking care of community was a huge leap for me. And finding the ways that art and artistry, very specifically poetry, let's be clear, this is my lane, can navigate that, can be impactful in that. Yeah, it's led to a great deal. The National Center of Excellence in Women's Health has been an incredible place for me to grow and to learn. I'm in OBGYN, which is also a very special place in the land of hospitals and that kind of experience. And I'm always an unexpected guest, at most tables. But I end up everywhere from the incoming resident doctor orientations to our town hall meetings, to helping to co-create our vision statement for the National Center of Excellence's moving forward for the next 50 years. So I've been able to be a part of infrastructure. I've been able to be a part of foundation building. I've been able to be a part of co-founding and uplifting not only the stories, but the experiences of those who are doing that work right along with me. It has been a privilege and an honor to be here and to be in the room and to be acknowledged as an important part of the way in which this work is facilitated, offered up, even when our former Vice President Kamala Harris. There was a White House visit here for the National Center for the Black Women's Health and Livelihood Initiative, to be very clear. And they came to look at the maternal health model. And I got to be in that room, I got to perform for 45 minutes, for everything from the White House staff to our governor staff to the mayor. Like, it was really deeply impactful to be there, and very specifically to be there with other Black practitioners.
Yeah.
And standing as representative of what we do here and what we do well.
Yeah.
And so it's that event led to the change of the national maternal healthcare model for the entire United States. Many people don't realize that that is actually based on the Embrace program that we have here at UCSF, which is Black prenatal healthcare for Black families. Which is what our new national maternal health care model is based on. That's where the insurance that is covering midwives and doulas, where those ideas are coming from. And so there's incredible work that is done here. The chair of our department, she is Dr. Andrea Jackson. She is the third woman, I think first Black woman to be chair of an OBGYN. And she is the co-founder of the Black Women's Health and Livelihood Initiative, along with Judy Young, who is my director and my mentor, who has helped me to navigate what it means to be here, to stay here, and to thrive here.
Right.
And so there have been people who have been working with me along the way to continue to ensure that the artistry is a part of the conversation and not an afterthought or not entertainment, but it is a foundational piece. It is a pillar of what the work stands on and stands for. It is how we are represented in community and beyond. And it's taken very seriously. And I really appreciate having that experience. But, all roads lead back to poetry, all roads lead back to community, all roads lead back to the relationship building that I've had, with other artists to navigate this, uplift this, and also be representative of it. If I didn't have other incredible community members to call upon and say, now watch this,
Right.
it would be quite different. And from here, UCSF is actually who brought me to Glide Memorial Church.
Wow.
It was one of the early on events that I was invited to. One of the things I really appreciate is they also, this very particular department, people think about what does it mean for you to do what you're doing now, and what does it mean for you to do it 10 years from now? And that's a constant part of the conversation. And so I was taken to Glide Memorial Church to see a senator speak, actually. Was initially what I was taking, who was also working with the Young Women's Health and Leadership, Jackie Spears, because she's pivotal in that work. And I was also taken to meet Janice Mirikitani, who was the poet laureate of San Francisco at the time.
Yeah.
And that was hugely impactful for me. Hugely, hugely, hugely impactful. Fast forward, Janice Mirikitani and I ended up facilitating the first all hands meeting, which is a time when the entire university comes together. It's one of the few times a year that the entire institution comes together here in the state of California, but also globally. We were the first two women of color to facilitate an all hands experience for UCSF. And we talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't popular conversation just yet. We were able to talk about what it means to experience racism, sexism, disenfranchisement, discrimination, homophobia, and those kinds of things in the workplace and in our lives, and how to heal from it. We got to share poems that shared that experience and those parts of our existence, and talk about what it required for us to live through it, who we got to be because we did, and where we get to go as we navigate our way forward. And Janice and I became incredible friends. She became an incredible mentor. However, I was scared of Glad Memorial Church. I used to go sit up in the balcony. I tell people that all the time. I was not down front.
Wow,
I did not
wow.
raise my hand.
Yeah, yeah. And look at today.
It took me a long time to get from up there to the pulpit, but that was something that Janice said oftentimes. She would always say to Marvin, "You got to get her up there. You got to get up there." And my heart would just drop every time she'd say it because I was so scared. I've been on a lot of stages, but that pulpit is a very different thing. That is a very different launch.
Yeah, yeah. Other entities watching, right?
And so I'm just really grateful. Again, art integration into theology is where this comes from. That I'm their first Janice Mirikitani Poet Theologian in residence. And so poetry and theology, I teach a theopoetics course that was dreamt up by Minister Marvin K. White and carried forward by me. And we have collaboratively created a great deal. And especially in the eyes of poetry and theater. And that's exactly what we've been bringing into the services, along with offering it out into the community as outreach. And yeah, it's been quite a beautiful journey. And now I'm completing my fellowship, which that's with my Janice Mirikitani Poet Theologian. Positionality has been at Glad Memorial Church, and I am now hired. I've been hired as the Arts and Liturgies Ministries Coordinator. So I get to take an even deeper step into the work, the practice, and the actual liturgy of this incredibly sacred space that is invested in humanity and unconditional love as its edict, and that is all.
Yeah.
But it's welcoming to everybody, and I do mean everybody. And I appreciate that loving journey. I think that was a really long answer to probably a shorter
No,
question. I'm hoping I'm giving you what.
No, you gave me everything and more. I was thinking as you were talking, I was like, this just needs to be part one. We need to come do part two. This is, I mean, it is absolutely incredible. There's so many things that came up for me when you were talking. It was, and let me just say this for the folks that listen to this later on. I know, and this is not a dig on anyone, but you'll have folks that'll, I wrote a book and a half. I won a couple slams. I'm putting in this work. No. No. You want to talk about putting in work? You just listen to the last 15 minutes of this conversation. I am in awe of all the work that you've put in. And it's, part of it is the work, part of it is the vision, but part of it is the fortitude. These aren't easy things. These are not easy things to sort of, for lack of a better word, to clip onto your, to clip onto your belt buckle to take with you. It's heavy. And so to be able to carry that weight, and add community to that is incredible for me. And it like I said, it bumped up another questions for me. One is just, and I know it may sound like a simple question, but why is community important?
Like, that's the whole question. Okay. That's great.
Yeah, that's it.
Why is community important? I mean, the foundation of all things. The energy that we give each other is the energy that we give the world, and the more we can inspire each other to be greater, to be higher, to be seen, to be visible, to be loved, to be forgiven, that is what is paramount. Building the community that I want to experience in the world, and offering a community that I want to share with the world. I feel like it's, there's no ending to the importance of community. For me, community is family.
Yeah.
It is legacy. It is safety. Community is the fortitude that I use to move forward, and is the inspiration for each next step, because I feel like in each position and each movement forward that I've personally taken, I'm constantly thinking about, who am I bringing with me?
Right. Right.
How can I bring as many folks with me as I possibly can, especially marginalized voices?
Yeah.
But you know, I don't just speak for marginalized voices when it comes to what I have the capacity to hold. I have the capacity to hold the whole community, but I am very intent upon and make it very clear that marginalized communities, marginalized voices are the places where my heart, you know, goes out and does extra work.
Right.
Is willing to be in to hold more space. That's what keeps me cooking every month for 9, 10 years.
Right. Right.
Red beans
Exactly.
and rice and jambalaya and
Right.
gumbo.
It's got to be something, right? So, but again, like I said, it is not an easy task. It's beautiful. You know, you also mentioned something as you were talking. What came to mind was sort of the importance of artists sort of I don't know if you want to say owning your own IP, right? Owning your own piece, but you touched on it in the sense of, you know, here's the creative piece of it. Now let me move over to this funding piece of it. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like why is that important? Why is it important for artists to understand that dimension of it, of the work as well?
I think it's important for us to hold dominion over who we are and how we're represented.
Mm,
And when we hold dominion or have leverage when it comes to what the work looks like, how we are going to represent whatever the platform is we're standing on, when we have autonomy over our own voices and how we're able to move, communicate, and engage the world around us and reflect back to the world our own experiences, it makes a huge difference. And the difference is authenticity.
mm,
Um, you can't get there without being honest about where you are and where you've been and where you're headed. Um, and so I think that the money is is a part of gatekeeping, you know, our ability to have that autonomy, our ability to be authentic, the ability to stand in on who we are foundationally, as people, as human beings, our values. Um, it's not a moral judgment. It's about being humane not only to ourselves, but the world around us in our reflection of it. Um, and yeah, that I oftentimes get the question, well, what grant is this? What
mm,
grant are you working on?
mm,
And I have to say, I stopped working in that paradigm some time ago.
mm.
Um, I shout out to all the grants, please send me more. I mean,
Right. Right. Caveat.
house never.
Right.
You know, however, um, there's also great fortitude in not creating a temporary space, but trying to create foundational spaces that will grow and continue beyond your tenure. And so none of the positions that I have held have been grant funded. They have all been institutionally held, with the exception of SFUSD. The fundraising was still internal, you know. Throughout the district, and Title I neglected very specifically. But the positionality being something that is becomes foundational in the culture of the space. Because what we're trying to do what I am trying to offer is a cultural shift to these spaces.
Mm,
And a part of that is having access to dominion, and dominion also means funding. It also means trying to create none of the spaces, you know, the last 4 positions did not exist before me.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
and so I've done a lot of piloting. You know, I'm grateful that here at UCSF, I have moved from a pilot to a career contract. It is now a career choice to be a poet here
right.
in OBGYN. Um, and I've done a lot of, you know, foundational piece building. And I know somebody's going to come on me and do it even better and bigger and bigger. And that's the idea, you
Right.
know, but I want to like make the the statement and make this space that this is important. Let me show you why. Let me show you how. And I feel like it's my job to make them clear how imperative we are to the process, how imperative we are to culture. And that's how that's how I have moved from a positionality of I need funding for this one thing versus I need to be 51% time, or I need to be 100% time. I need health insurance.
Yeah, right.
I need job security to the best of my ability here in these institutions. And it's really, I feel like the majority of that work has been done for me by showing them how imperative, how important, and how this work is, artistry is, poetry is to them personally and institutionally, how it will uplift what they are trying to offer the world as a vision of change for themselves, how it shifts policy when you're able to hear the voices of those who you are in service to in a format that does not blame you, but offers you a new point of positionality or visibility. And while that might not seem like a financial like anchoring, it is what has led to those kinds of foundational choices by institutions to say, actually we need to create a position for this. That's how important it is. Becoming invaluable, becoming absolutely necessary. Yeah, I feel like that's been the key to moving my career forward, and moving this movement of art integration into everything. This is really, a movement of culture change,
Yeah, yeah.
and setting the tone of the aesthetic.
Integration, I love that term in this sense, right? It's not just, the putting this next to this. It's the integration of it such that it becomes this new whole, which I just love. What does being someone of color mean in this space? Like, how has that did it hinder, did it help? Like, how has that sort of evolved with your journey?
Truth is,
that's what we're here for.
I think I'm a mixed race person, Black and Indigenous, and holding a number of ancestries in that, and holding a great deal of lineal history in that. And so I have utilized my lineage in order to punctuate, platform, uplift, and create importance around marginalized voices like mine own, like women's, like people of color, like gender nonconforming community, queer community. There's no accident that there is an X in the Black Women's Health and Livelihood Initiative. It is an intentional shout out, and it's intentionally meant to say you're safe here.
Yeah, I love it.
And so I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, it does though. I mean, the thing is, it does, because it's so, and I'm gonna go back to this word again, integrated. It's so woven into everything that it's almost like to pull that out separately is almost to do that as a justice, injustice to it, because it just feels like that, as you said before, regardless your voice, regardless who or where, you're looking to talk to marginalized voices, like across the board, so it absolutely answered my question.
We have to, there's this idea of metrics, that exists, that determines whether or not you are seen, heard, or important.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to people of color, of course, we know the statistics on Black women and birthing, how we're most likely to die before, during, and after birth, how we're most likely to die in care and in treatment and in hospital facilities. But it is taken years, decades and decades and decades of death before we got to a place where it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something here that we need to investigate, and so then we investigate what we already know,
Yes.
in order to prove and move that measure forward. And yeah, this is how we build our visibility. Being a person of color going through BLM and being in a big institution of this kind of wondering, okay, where do we stand? What can I do? Seeing movement after movement after movement come forward, and what has been happening in women's healthcare, what has been happening in healthcare in general, um, being able to speak from the perspective of somebody who's most affected.
Yeah.
And personally, emotionally, ethnically, indigenously, but financially, it's different to talk ethereally about something or someone, about this fictitious individual, but it's much different to have me come and share a poem with you about my life
Right.
and about the lives of the people that are around me and the feedback that I'm hearing in, patient family advisory committees and in these rooms where we are sharing the wealth and the depth of the impact that we are trying to make. It's different when you put a human face to it. It's different when you put a voice to it. It then becomes important. It humanizes it. We stop being numbers and become people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like those things have been really important for me. Being a person of color in this positionality, being a woman in this positionality, being queer in this positionality. But it also means that I have a lot of voices to be accountable to and to remember to uplift in every room. So I can't let certain things just go by in a meeting without saying, actually, let's talk about this. Let's make sure we're not creating transphobic language here, or let's make sure we're including the people who are not at the table visibly here, or so it's given me that.
Yeah. And I think, just hearing you is also important. It's also important, the language, right? In being able to master that language. You and I, many of us have been in various rooms, and being able to sort of be heard in that room, while holding on to the trauma, while holding on to the pain and the anger, and still be able to be in a place where you can, where you can convey that in a way that people will hear, I think is an art form within itself, that needs to be mastered. There's so much I could talk to you about. There's so much time. So we're gonna get time to do. I wanna get to you reading and folks, hearing you. But there's a couple of things that I cannot let go by. Lewis Howard Latimer.
Hey.
Like, come on. I'm reading it. I'm just like, wait, relate. It makes sense. It's DNA. I'm getting it. But it's just listening to. So I was going to the meditation moments that done with Breonna Taylor and all of that work that you were doing, and then seeing that there was this series of sort of what would you call it? It wasn't even podcasts, but it was these readings, and digging into that. Like, talk to me about like what does that feel like? What kind of impact did that have, knowing that this is part of your legacy that you're kind of bringing forward? It's just let us know.
I appreciate that. Yes, I am the great niece of Lewis Howard Latimer, the inventor of the first permanent filament of the light bulb, and the designer of the patent of the telephone for Alexander Graham Bell. Every time you pick up a phone or turn on a light, Black people should be proud. And I take it as one of my personal life missions to make sure that I share that legacy and wield it thoughtfully. And so I have utilized Lewis Howard Latimer's poetry, my great uncle's work of the mid-1900s, as the call to this series of poems, and you're going to hear some of these, and me responding as his great niece in the 21st century, and also making it very clear how much is still the same in these call and responses, and also leveraging that legacy in spaces that don't get to hear these kinds of stories of greatness around Blackness.
Right.
Greatness coming out of adversity, out of deep trauma, and heroic story. Latimer Lights the Way has hands down been one of the most impactful series of work that I have created. It's now a one-person show, it's now a book, it's now, and it has not, and it's just the beginning of what I intend to do. There are 50 books of poetry that were created on his 74th birthday and were given to friends and family members. And I inherited my grandfather's copy as his namesake. My grandfather was Dr. Lewis Howard Schuster, who's named after his uncle. And so I inherited his copy, and it's one of the few, if not the only one circulating in the larger world. All of the rest of those books that are remaining are in the Latimer House Museum in Queens, BAM, the Brooklyn Art Museum, and the Smithsonian. And so I feel like it is beautiful and awesome for that to exist there, and this work needs to be in the world.
Absolutely.
And there is a Latimer poem that is applicable to almost every and anything. So anytime that I get to anchor that and bring it in as a part of the experience, I do. One, because it's relevant, but two, because I feel like it levels things. It levels the playing field, where it's like, listen, it doesn't really matter the adversity you place before us. Still we will rise, and create more and more. He also had a heavy hand in ministry and creating a Unitarian church in Queens. He's also an incredible musician. Like I said, I have a one-person show that's, built around the experience of that legacy and what I grew up hearing, and also what I've continued to learn as I've grown. He was the only Black member of the Edison pioneers. And he improved a myriad of inventions that he never received proper credit for. But he has been deeply impactful, and there's a lot of story there. He and Edison, quite the story.
Wow. Okay. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Oh.
God, there's so much. We could make like 3 episodes out of this, and I know I want to get you to read. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word, ambitious.
I love it. I love it. Say no more. Because you embody it. So you have it. So you have it. Glide Memorial Church, April 14th. Spring awakening is awakening something deep within ourselves. We think a lot about self-care and what it means externally. What does it mean internally? What has been dreaming up, has been bundled up, has been in slumber, unfurling and awakening for you right now. Then you go on, you right now calling forward this walk into history, knowing that what is behind us, what is in front of us, and where we are is exactly where we're supposed to be. You go even further down to somebody else is also standing by and knows and feels exactly the way you do, whether you feel yourself in isolation or in joy. You go further down to this is what is inferring in this spring, this fertility gesture of goodness. We are birthing forward a new life. And then if it's not just like the cherry on top, let's be clear about what we are all worth. We are a valuable people. We are valuable in what we are. I mean, after hearing all of this and then digging in and hearing this, it was, you know, what I didn't know at the time was how much I was going to need that in the next few weeks of my life, as the way the universe works. I read that for folks to understand the type of individual that you're hearing today, this is not just academic, this is not just on paper. You walk into this work. And I don't usually do this, but I wanted to share that. And that's just an excerpt of that. So folks, when you listen later on, not only listen to this, but you need to investigate, you need to stalk, and you will walk away with more than you come in with. I've got so much more, but look, I want to give you some time. We have about 15 minutes or so for you to read, and then we'll come back with a couple of other questions. But I want to give you a chance to share you and this wonderful new work with the world.
Hey, I appreciate that. And thank you so much for listening to my sermons.
It's bookmarked. What are you talking about?
I appreciate that. Oh, you're very, very kind. Very, very kind. Yeah, right. And thank you for that. My work at Glide is incredible and an incredible growth spurt for me. This new book is called 7 Last Words. And it is offering you a little bit of that theological engagement as well, in title and in form. I feel like this collection is about transformation, you know, and in all its forms and facets. The transformation of time and history, the transformation from life to death, the transformation that we are experiencing in healthcare, the transformation we're experiencing in the world around us. It's all, I feel like these pieces are wrapped in it. And I'll just begin. This first piece I'm going to share with you is from this collection. And like I was saying before, these are call and response pieces where the poetry of Lewis Howard Latimer is my call, and I am responding as his great niece here in the 21st century as the answer. And so I'll begin with this poem entitled, My Soul Will Be a Star, by Lewis Howard Latimer. When I die, my soul will be a star, set in the depths of heaven's boundless blue, and I will ever watch this earth afar and note the good, the tender, and the true. When I shall die, my soul will be a star, to smile and answer to each wandering eye, to look in sadness on all strife and war, and twinkle sympathy to those who sigh. To those who weep, I'll lend my softest light and send sweet hope down on a tender beam. To those who love, I'll give a gleam more bright than radiates out from a poet's dream. I'll guide the sailors o'er the treacherous sea and bring his bark safe to the foreign strand, and warn when danger threatens on his lee, and smile and greet him when he's safe on land. I'll peep into the window of each home where sorrow bows the loving parent's head, and bring sweet tidings to those loved ones who roam, and whisper messages from dear ones dead. When I shall die, my soul will be a star, and I shall watch when the bright sun is gone, beaming most brightly when the days are far and fade into the sunlight of the waking morn. When I shall die, my soul will be a star, to smile on earth through ages yet to come, to guide and comfort all the souls that are, and welcome others to their final home. And the responsorial poem is entitled Living for the Stars, LHL, dedicated to my father, Wallace H. Webb, and my great uncle, Lewis Howard Latimer. For my father. When my father was dying, a restless light swam about his tongue, soft glow of the soul swirling in a death rattle, alerting us to the newness on its way. The light at the end of the first darkness is birth. The light at the end of the last darkness is death. The light in my family is a generational gift. I feel the genius of the light. It is in my veins. My mother put it there. Fact. Lewis Howard Latimer invented the first permanent carbon filament of the light bulb, patent number 247097, on August 13th, 1881. For years, the electric light bulb carried his initials, LHL. For Uncle Lewis. We descendants of the light hold it close, cast it about the world, filling Black hearts with prize. See, we are the light bearers, casting light into the unknown and unseen, clearing the way to a certain truth about the brilliance in Blackness. It guides the hand of a poet unsung, a still guiding light. It was the light of the radio and the vision that followed that stopped me in Hurricane Katrina, saved my life 20 minutes from a bridge that would have led to a certain death. Like a lighthouse of the soul, spirit turned me round, and after the storm, it was the light that I missed the most. Like a somber moon, like a daydream held captive in the eye of chaos, and when cancer rolled up my father's chest and sung a deep breath. It was a fallen dark picked sky with night blanket of stars and silver linings, his gaze fixed upon through the window while waiting to cross. And when the moment came, and the moment did come, I watched the light escape from his eyes. The moment of graceful ascension is like a heartbeat held in sweetness, a sudden bloom in February, a sassafras kiss, a weeping willow waving goodbye in the distance, eyes that smile without sadness, and the arrival home always follows the light. The light, Uncle Lewis. The constellation of stars led your parents, Rebecca and George Latimer, to run freedom down, from Virginia to Massachusetts, run over, run through, run beyond, and run, and run, and run, to give birth to you. To give birth to the light that would illuminate the world. Yes, when I die, my soul will be a star, way up high, but close to where you are. Yes, when I too die, my soul will be a star, way up high, but guiding generations to come from afar. And this next parody of pieces deserves a good story. I've shared with you some of the history of Lewis Howard Latimer and how this work came to be. But it bears mentioning that there's a step further back we need to take into George Latimer's history. So George Latimer was Lewis Howard Latimer's father. And George Latimer was one of the first abolitionist cornerstone cases to be tried in a court of law when the question of the moral value of slavery was being posed. This is a part of and the beginning of the abolitionist movement. It bears mentioning that when George Latimer and Rebecca Latimer decided to run away from their plantation, George Latimer was passably light, and he took his wife, who was a brown-skinned woman, and had her pass as his handmaiden to get her, and he all the way to Massachusetts. And once they got there, they started a life of their own and had a family and were embedded in community in a deep and a meaningful way. But they sent enslavement catchers after them, and they did find them. And when they did look upon George Latimer's face, what did he do? He took off running to the courthouse, and he burst through the doors, as the story goes, and says, "Arrest me." And they say, "What have you done?" He said, "I'm a thief." And he said, "What have you stolen?" He said, "I've stolen myself." And so George and Rebecca Latimer were placed in prison until the case could be decided as to whether or not they would be returned to enslavement, based on the moral grounding as to whether or not slavery was considered holding the moral high ground. This case went on, it became nationally known. It was a very big deal at the time, and it garnered the attention of a budding activist named Frederick Douglass. And so Frederick Douglass took interest in George's case, and they became friends throughout his case, throughout his trial, and afterwards. The petition that was signed, the first petition that was generated and signed to abolish slavery, which was created by Frederick Douglass, George Latimer was standing up there on every stage with him. And when he would talk about how the horrors of slavery and how disenfranchising, dehumanizing, how hideous and how bitter it was, he would have George to reveal his back and walk through the audience so they could see the lashes. And that is a big part of how those signatures came to be. And they were all hand to hand. But in the end of George and Rebecca Latimer's case, when it got close to a decision, even Robert Frost, poems were being written about this case. It was decided to not decide. Instead of letting a landmark decision come forward that could create precedent throughout the country, the townspeople took up a collection of money and offered it to the enslavers to let it go and to let them leave and let them stay, for them to leave and let the Latimers stay. And that is what happened. They ended up releasing George and Rebecca Latimer, allowed them to continue their lives there. But the story of it, George Latimer would oftentimes tell the story of following the North Star, as he did during his trial. He would also tell those stories while he and Frederick Douglass were garnering their signatures. And so there is the belief that the abolitionist newspaper, the North Star, got its title from George Latimer's, him sharing his story and the stories of the community and the people and the family that he knows who also had run away. And so I think it's important to share that history of George Latimer and Frederick Douglass before going into this next piece. And so this piece is entitled Go Ahead or Stand Aside by Lewis Howard Latimer. Life is change, the change of progress. We must neither pause nor stay, but be ever up and doing, ever moving on our way. In the rush and crush and struggle of the hurrying tide, there is but to do your duty, which is to go ahead or stand aside. You may think to pause and question, shall I go or shall I stay? Is it wise to make the venture? Standing thus you block the way. And the billows sweep around you, not one moment will they bide. Hurrying on, each one is chanting, go ahead or stand aside. Though the waves seem sweeping o'er you, do not yield you to dismay. You are part and parcel of it. Let the tide turn as it may. Oh, you may still be in and with it. Let who will laugh and deride. Hold your way and make all others go ahead or stand aside. And the responsorial poem is entitled, I'm Reclaiming My Time. And this poem is also a reflection of the Black Women's Health and Livelihood Initiative and the Black Mama's Justice Symposium. I'm reclaiming my time. I no longer give you permission to walk all over my space, and by permission, I do mean my silence. You may not claim my light as your own. I am not a part of your emotional labor force. I do not care about your fragility. I am reclaiming my time because I deserve time, a legacy of time, an apothecary of time. I am not in construction. I am in carpentry, smooth brown edges, sweetening sassafras curves, loving Black and brown bodies endowed with creationism. I have no need for these bricks I've been building. You can have them back now. My hands are made for a sweeter vision. You see, I am reclaiming my time, and the vision is on its way. Justice, you've been a courtesy call on hold. So I'm waiting for the ceiling of change and possibility to fall to my feet, waiting for it to shatter around me and allow me to be seen as loudly as I am brave, to be seen as tall as I am brilliant, to be seen as brown as I am Black. See me as brilliant and not belligerent. See me as whole, perfect, and complete in my healing. See me as worthy. See me as valuable. See me as taking up all the space and not apologizing for it. Walking in the knowing that my higher self is my value, is my belief in practice, and not apologizing for it. Believing that my time is worthy of greatness, knowing that I am deserving of greatness, knowing that my space belongs. And believing that we are reclaiming our time, that we are deserving of time, that there is value in our time, that we need more time, that I am running out of time. I must know that we have time because it is my life, my livelihood, and my legacy. Time. And I will move into more work that uplifts the vision of what I do here at UCSF as we jump from our space and with Latimer into the art integration into healthcare practices. And so this poem is entitled See Us Birth. It's also associated with an art exhibition that it was written for, and that I got an opportunity and the privilege of watching each family take a picture for. This exhibition was created here institutionally, specifically to make sure that women of color and people of color who come here to be seen feel safe giving birth here, feel safe being seen here, feel safe receiving care here. And so we chose a myriad of families from community as well as internally here from the hospital, and got an opportunity to listen to them, share with them, and write tiny poems that accompanied each one of their pictures. But this is the piece that is the exhibition poem, See Us Birth. See the birth of life in our eyes, lit by the strength of the dreams in our imagination. It is winding in our curls, baited by our breath, this practice of faith, this exploration of equitable future. Let the soul of this generation love us into dawn. See us as family, threaded by laughter and tears and Sunday dinner. Watch us sailing on an evolution of our ideals stitched with care, a symposium of thriving, holding a people as a vision. See the resilience in her smile, the tempo of grace in hand. This is revolution. Safety on little sweet faces, knowing of innocence preserved. We are walking, learning, believing, sharing this principle and practice, this thriving journey ahead. See us embraced, see us dream, rise, believe, see us live valuable worth, see us as Noor excellence, but see us birth. And taking you to the space of Glide Memorial Church's integration of artistry into the legacy of theology. Glide Memorial Church has this edict of unconditional love. That's the whole truth. That's all of it right there. And it was, that foundation was created by Reverend Cecil Williams and Janice Mirikitani. Husband and wife. Like I said before, Janice Mirikitani is the former poet laureate of San Francisco and also the co-founder of the Unconditional Love Edict that runs Glide Memorial Church. She passed a few years ago, but this is a poem for her, a poem for Janice Mirikitani. A constellation of grace and praise, a dream affirmed, a prayer in action, a meditative hum, a joyful noise. She is symmetry. Balance in the tide, waiting in the moment, the groundswell be her idea. She makes us great, make us remember it ain't all easy and it ain't all about showing up. She is the goodness, whirling gratitude like the waves of Nuroto, conduit of transformation, diviner of faith. The laughter of love in her eyes keeps the saints at watch. A timeless gift of joy to all who behold. She be a movement, an activist, an action of redemption, the soul of our song. And if ever you lose your way, hope for a beacon to guide you home. Follow her lead, open your heart, forgive yourself, and just glide. And I want to make sure that I don't go over your time restraints as I move through these pieces. Are we still in a good place?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Ashe, thank you for that. This next poem is entitled Applaud. It's a piece that was initially written for UCSF and the resident doctors that were making their way across the stage of moving from residency into their practice. It is quite the journey. as we all make transformational journeys as we move through not only our career, but our purpose as we move forward. Applaud. When life opens a door, it takes courage to walk through, and each of you have walked through with compassion in your heart and change in your reach. Do you see the applause in your arrival? Every ancestor who paved the way before you were born is in applause. The light that holds your resilience is born of sweetness and struggle, the choice to hear the call, not just adhere to circumstance, to breathe for those who have no more breath. Do you hear the applause? So many shoulders bound together to make you a reality. There is no amount of privilege that can save you from this. There is no amount of chaos that can keep you from this moment. You arrive with purpose on your breath, synchronicity in your step. How impossible it seemed at times, and still you rise like an Angelo quote. You are a bravery to live by. We witness your arrival. You are our reference, the measure of greatness in progress. It's the intellectual flex we marvel at, a buoyant, shining example of brilliance in action. Thank you for the secrets you keep. We will never really know how hard, how many late nights, how much uncertainty that led you to this success. This arrival deserves an applause. This poem is just a parade, a moment of reflection on how close you came to. This poem is an homage. This poem is not enough. This poem is my love letters. This poem is an applause. This poem is a standing ovation to your elevation. This poem is just the beginning of the ways that we say thank you. You deserve an applause. You deserve an applause. You deserve an applause. Lots of stories of survival in this work, and lots of moments where I feel the absolute need to anchor in to gratitude in it. And so I try to find little ways to uplift as I go. And even when talking about the things that are hard to share and hard to feel and hard to hear, I try to hold a joyful note somewhere in it, or a gratitude note somewhere in it. And so this next piece is entitled Phoenix. It's a poem that was written to accompany The Ashes, which is a documentary film written by Teresa Fortune about the experience of postpartum as a Black woman. And I begin it as a letter. Dear future self, let me champion you now. Know that I love you. You are absolutely necessary, and there will be moments when you don't believe in the faith weighing down your doorstep, when you will turn faceless and walk alone. And we've all done it, but I assure you, there is a sisterhood in the volcanic ash that is you right now. A garden will bloom where these ashes lay. When the ancestors come marching in, we find ourselves ready to fly away home, create what's necessary to be lifted and dug out from this. From the ashes of grace, we rise into ethereal beings born of matriarchal magic. And when you find yourself tired of being strong, just be. When you feel yourself slipping off the rope of life, grab hold, tie a knot in that mother lover and hold on. And there will be this period where waiting on a miscarriage is like waiting on a hurricane, when it doesn't go the way you planned, and the postpartum will make you wonder why anything, as postpartum can do. This middle passage of matrilineal experience, slipping an emotional Mickey to the wealth you've still got growing inside, you must forgive yourself and fall without fear. Radical forgiveness is a rooted dance, wading in the waters of surrender. Stop fighting and start being. Your radical acceptance is enough. Repair, restore, and retreat. Now repeat. There is a nature to the decision to stay alive, stay whole, stay blessed, stay with joy, but stay. Stay where the impossible is possible, where my time be the currency, generational norm breaking into a new vision. You can always try again, where every breath that you take is a measure of success. Motherhood is powerful, capable of being the rudder in all weather as we identify our why. Why be? We must remember to mother ourselves, must remember what we are fertily growing within our intuition. We must remember what we are nursing and nurturing in our purpose, in our dreams, in our fulfillment, in our being, in our love, in our legacy. We must remember we birth more than babies. We birth ideas. We birth movements. We birth medicine. We birth reality. We birth love. We birth hardship and hardship. But most importantly, we birth redemption, resilience, grace, and gratitude. Born into purpose is the way home. Remember who you are and is loved, is necessary, is brilliant, is blessed, is wonderful, is genius in action, is a faith walk, is unconditional love, is gratitude, is why just you is more than enough. Dear God, I pray you see yourself as divine fortune, a living testimony to the abundance that brought you into this world, an infinite knowing of the spirit that guides your intuition. I pray you know you are a celebration, destiny manifest, prophecy at work. I pray you understand you are valuable. Pray you take up all the space. Pray you see yourself as a reflection in your mother's strength. Know that you are a testament molded into testimonial. I pray that your heart remain a dedication to unconditional love. Thank you, God. Ashe, Amen, and Amen forever and always. Mona. How's that?
That is, you just shifted every molecule of radio wave. It's, no, I appreciate you. I thank you, for more reasons than you know. Absolutely. Oh, this is amazing. I can't wait for this collection to get out into the world, and for folks to be able to touch it and feel it and have it with their being.
Thank you for that. Oh, more and more I am press. Yes, 7 last words. It launches today. It'll be able to be ordered in 7 days.
Love it. I love it. Wow. Okay. So, what does your family say? How do they feel about what you do, your work?
Um, what does my family say? My mother is so supportive. She is absolutely awesome. My mother has been so deeply supportive from the very beginning. I remember writing my first poem in my diary in kindergarten and not being able to quite get the words right. And so my mother wrote it over for me. I still have this poem. And I always hold it up to her every couple of years. I see this investment in a possible future. It worked out.
There you go.
My mother always, took my work very seriously. I started writing from the beginning as a child. My grandfather used to send me Latimer poems as a little girl. The vast majority, I come from a very special kind of Black family. And in my family lineage, yes, there is Lewis Howard Latimer, but there's also amongst our family members is Charles Drew. Amongst our family members, you have the first Black university president. Well, yeah, you got that too. First Black university professor to go over and teach on the continent and help establish colleges of business in Ghana and Nigeria and create a massive kerfuffle for the United States and the world beyond. I feel like my Uncle Hugh is former president of the National Urban League and so on and so forth. And so there is a lot of magistry in my family, and I'm really grateful that they are willing to and have always been supportive of my poetry. Um, all my other cousins are doctors and lawyers and architects. And as a little kid, I would be like, and I'm gonna be a poet.
Exactly. Love it. That's right.
And I would be like, okay, you know, and I'm amongst the younger of my generation. And so I really appreciate that. My grandfather's way of supporting that was sending me Latimer poems like, it's okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a lofty thing for a little Black girl to suggest that she wanted to be when she grows up. And so my father, you know, my parents were both incredible artists. My mother was a dancer. She also writes amazing haikus. My father was a singer, a guitarist, and a biologist. But my father's, you know, mother was a jazz pianist and church organist. My father's father was a DJ. Like, so artistry has always been paramount. You know, my mother, yeah, her first career was as a dancer. And she'll tell anybody before she was president of any university or or dean of any college, you know, the artistry was always what has come first. Those are the boards she still sits on, you know, and so my family has always given me the grace to be what they had aspired to themselves. And so they've always been very supportive of that, and I really, really appreciate it. They have not always understood it.
Right, right. We're behind you. They were there.
But you know, they're like, well, as long as you stay gainfully employed in some way, and there seems to be some level of longevity,
Right.
that's where I don't have to worry about you for a lifetime. You know, but yeah, my family has been supportive of this, and they've been supportive of the work. So I appreciate that. They've been great champions. I'm lucky in that regard.
Wonderful. If if this book that's coming out in 7 days was actor,
Mhm.
singer, who would it be?
Um, Clutch my pearls. Who would it be? I mean, like, I'm hoping for Angela Bassett.
There you go. Okay, okay. No, but that you got to put that out. You got to put that in. That's who the book is. You know what I mean?
You know, I'm
I
hoping
love
for
that.
Angela Bassett, Viola Davis
Yeah.
kind
Yes.
of experience.
There you go.
But I won't be mad if it's anything else, you know.
You've done so much. Your bouquet is a cornucopia of things that you've done. Is there anything on a bucket list, you know, from an audience perspective, that you've always said, if this could happen, oh, it'll be the pinnacle. Like whether it be an audience member or a certain stage that you would want to be on, like where is that place, or what is that thing that's a bucket list moment for you?
I would say right now, I'm also writing a series about the history of my family, or kind of co-writing it with my grandfather,
Mm,
his last book,
yeah.
entitled Passing. And it's the story of the Schuster 10, my mother's lineage. 10 Schuster children, 5 chose to pass for white, and 5 moved as smooth brown in the world, and
Wow.
the lineages that unfolded from this family line. Um, and it would be my heart's greatest joy, and it is on my bucket list to create a series, mini series out of those stories,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, which chronicle a great deal of history for Black people in this country, everything from um, the insurance company that insured Motown, since that was my great uncle Rod in Detroit,
Wow.
to, you know, filament of the light bulb,
Yeah.
or the design of the telephone, or, you know, my cousin Klein married BB Drew, you know, the daughter of Charles Drew.
Yeah.
There's so many through lines here historically, and a still not as told story about what it means to be in Blackness and be able to choose Blackness or opt out of it as it concerns your experience in this country.
I can't wait. That is remarkable. And you hit right at the end exactly what I was thinking about in that opting out of, that in of itself is a whole conundrum. Wow. I tell people all the time, I got dope friends. I mean, this show is so selfish. It's like so selfish for me right now. I got one question for you, and then I go into sort of like the end parts of what we do here at the end of the show. But the first part of that question is, if you're stuck in an elevator, right, and you've got the choice to have three people in that elevator. So you're stuck in there for 3 hours. It can be past, present, future. Who would those three people be?
Deep breath. Stuck in an elevator for 3 hours. Who would those three people be? Frida Kahlo. My grandmother, Corinne Perryman Schuster. And Audre Lorde.
What a group. Frida, I did not see that one coming at all. At all.
Frida Kahlo is my favorite visual artist. And just I think she's a patron saint of all things activist, artivist, and feminist.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're heading to the last section of what I call the quick fire round. And what I do is I go through a series of words, right? And you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be a word or it could be a phrase, but it's just spontaneous what comes to your mind after I say this word. And I'll just keep going one after the other. All right. Here we go. First one, poetry.
Nice.
San Francisco.
Grace.
Religion.
Faith.
Spirituality.
Purpose.
Art.
Life.
Language.
Hope.
Blood.
Dream.
Pain.
Mine.
Legacy.
Upheld.
Woman.
Time.
Black man.
Necessary.
War.
Hard.
Laughter.
Forgiveness.
Indigenous.
My people.
Immigrant.
Protect.
Loss.
Hold.
Church.
Home.
Black woman.
Live.
Literature.
Immortal.
Father.
Gone.
Daughter.
Transitioned.
I don't know what that whole thing did for me emotionally, but I want to thank you. I am truly blessed. The folks that are listening, whether now or later on, will be blessed. I don't. Here it is, a poet, and I'm having trouble finding the words to give the gratitude, to sort of give the flowers that you deserve. The level of authenticity that you put in your work is inspiring. there was a moment in time when I moved, I left the States and went to London, and I was kind of going through all this piece of like relevancy and the stuff I was doing in the States, and now I'm in London. Does anyone know who I am? And then I got a call about, doing a I think it was from you. It wasn't a class. It was with Skype. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
Yes, yes. Back in the day, it
God
was.
bless you.
I remember being in my like kitchen in London and like getting on Skype and having and doing, I think it was a workshop or reading or something like that, and it was so timely. That was years ago, and right now, I talk. There's a reason for everything in the way the universe works, and I know we were supposed to talk a couple of weeks ago, but again, knowing what I know now makes sense in how the universe works, because this is what I needed now. I know y'all are listening, but this is being selfish right now. I needed this healing. I needed this moment. And if it's giving that for me, I'm sure it's going to be giving that for other people when they listen to it. So again, I'm just jumbling my words here because I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful for you being here and spending time with us. And you're too close for us not to go grab a cup of coffee or something like that, but we'll make that happen. But yeah, any last things, anything you want to let folks know? Please remind them about say again when the book is coming out, what the book name is, so that we can get on top of that. But any last words from you?
Yes. So publishing company is More and More I Am. Book is orderable as of May 23rd. monaweb.com is where you can find me and find the link for this work. It's the title is 7 Last Words. And if you're interested in hearing more sermons, I will be doing them, offering a Mothers of Angels service at Glide Memorial Church. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'll be giving that sermon. And you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. It's live streamed. And it's also 330 Ellis, San Francisco. Come through. There's always greatness and goodness wherever Marvin K. White is. So welcoming people into that house and knowing that there's more to come. There's more to come. Anybody who has an opportunity to visit us here at UCSF and the Black Wellness Center, I have an incredible art exhibition up. Oh, I'm speaking at Stanford on a panel for the Black Women's Feminist Healing Movement on June 2nd. And I have an art exhibition piece going up on May 30th in correlation with that symposium as well. And so I was like trying to remember the important things that are coming up.
You're doing the work, and that's it. But can we find these when we follow you? You're going to be you'll put these things up. They're going to be on your website as well. And good, wonderful.
Website, Insta, Facebook, all the things. I do need to say Ramona Laughing Brook Webb and Mona Webb, same person. Some people get confused.
Right.
I decided to use my my birth name is Laughing Brook. And it's my indigenous name. It's not a made up or chosen name. It's the name I was given. And so I want to offer that reference to shout out to my indigenous family and friends as well. But yeah, all of those things you can find in these spaces.
It's a beautiful thing. All the pieces, all the pieces.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna let you get back to your I'm still over on the East Coast.
Oh, bless your heart.
No, thank you so much. And I'm gonna let you get back to your afternoon. But again, I can't say how much I appreciate this time that we spent. And like, I'm serious, this is literally part one. There's so much more I want to dig into. There's so much more I want to talk to you about just in a name.
Oh, sure.
That in and of itself, in a name, I would love to chat. So let's when things settle down a little bit, we'll book some more time and we'll talk. People can listen in, and we can talk.
That sounds great. I appreciate you giving and blessing me with this opportunity. I appreciate your graciousness and your kindness. Thank you for your patience and your thoughtfulness in this. I appreciate you being willing also to rally for this and hold space for me. I just appreciate you holding this platform, not only for me, but for community, and being such a stellar representation of our community, and the generosity that exists amongst us. I really honor that and appreciate that. And thank you for co-teaching that Skype class. I appreciate you.
It hit me. I forgot all
also
about it.
speaks to how long we've known each other.
Absolutely, right? Skype.
Okay.
Exactly.
That was a new thing then.
It was new, right? It was, right? It was revolutionary.
It was.
Oh my goodness. Well, look, this is great. Thank you. Thank you so much to the audience out there. Tune into Beautiful Black Books. You are going to walk away with more than you came in with, as is